Yeah. All right. So business plans. So business plans, and first on my team, we kind of see them for two purposes. One is a way to determine what our team is focusing on and what are our priorities and how we're going to be successful and really defining success. And the other part is winning the Entrepreneurship Award, which has been successful for us in the past few years. So we gave this presentation last year and kind of shared some things that we learned. The audience last year was mostly rookies on teams and teams that had never submitted the Entrepreneurship Award before. So that was interesting. But so a little bit about myself. I'm the lead mentor, head coach, whichever term your team uses, for 2239. I'm also an alum of the team. And then my day job, I'm a machine design engineer at General Mills. So I design equipment to make food, Cheerios, Gushers, Yoplait yogurt, all of the above. All right, so we'll see how this works out. I think everyone can use the reactions to give me some feedback here. So I kind of want to know who is a rookie on the team, or how many people are rookies. So you can use the reactions to clap or give me a thumbs up, because not everyone has their video on.
If you pull up participants, you'll see like a yes, no.
Oh, yes, it works even better. I didn't even see that. All right, so if I can see that. All right, so everyone want to give me like a yes or a no to if you're a rookie. I got one so far.
Another one with a no. Oh, we got one yes, Elsa.
I'm a very patient person.
Scroll down to the bottom and you pull up participants. It'll pull up your name, and then you'll be able to see the yes, no if you want to put that information in. Well, there's a couple more.
Yeah.
We got Elsa and Joel.
So we can get in a mix here.
Yeah.
All right. So next question. Who's submitted a business plan before? Whether yourself, whether your team, right? Has your team submitted a business plan before, or would this be your first time?
Is there anybody that hasn't submitted a business plan? You can click no.
All right.
A few responses.
Get a few. All right, and then we'll skip the next question. So,
We've also got,
for us,
if you open up chats, there's been putting some information in there as well too.
Yeah, I saw a few in there.
Yep.
All right. So for us, we started submitting the business plan in 2018. First time we'd submitted an award in many years, right? And that was kind of a big turning point for us in terms of submitting the business plan for the Entrepreneurship Award and variety of how we were running the team and how things were operating. So for us, when we looked at our team and where we wanted to be and where we were, we looked at it and we said, okay, so we have a handful of students, we have a handful of mentors, we have some money coming in and we're doing okay. We have one sponsor, right? And things keep running, but there's a lot of opportunity for growth, and there's a lot of opportunities for things out of our control to cause us issues and our team to either cease to exist or have problems, right? And so this was really, or especially, forget the word I'm looking here for, but we had a sense of what that meant in the past, because 2239 used to have a team in the 90s, which was Team 6, that operated out of Hopkins High School and Southwest High School. And then that team ended up folding and stopped being a team when they lost their one sponsor, who also provided all their mentors, right? And then we didn't have a team at Hopkins for a number of years, and then started up again as 2239, right? So we'd seen what happens when the team disappears, and the team had almost disappeared on a number of occasions after that. So we decided, you know what, we want to make sure that we're doing okay, and that one thing can't derail us, one unexpected change won't throw us off. So we decided, you know, the important things for us are, you know, engaging students and having a variety of students and a large number of students, having a variety of mentors, so we're not just relying on one or two or a handful to operate everything, and having a number of sponsors, right? And so we looked at, you can see in 2018, we had 16 students, 4 mentors, and 1 to 1 regional, right? We wrote our business plan. We tried to execute against what we talked about in our business plan. And in next year, we didn't quite double our team size, but grew substantially, gained a few more mentors, involved the parents more, doubled the number of regionals we went to. And then same deal with running into 2020, right? More mentors, more regionals, added some FTC teams, right? And so for us, the business plan was that guiding document that helped us and really put what our plans were down on paper so that everyone could understand what we were going for and how we're going to execute against that. So that's for us, that's what makes the business plan important. So, you know, we started out and we said, well, what should go in the business plan? And this is straight up stolen from first requirements for the business plan for the Entrepreneurship Award, right? These are the bullet points that they say you need to have and they expect you to have. And this is exactly what our business plan has and is the perfect place to start, right? So they've crafted this over a number of years to be things that by having your team fill out, answer these questions, think about these things, it naturally makes you think about how you can improve your team and what, how your team operates and where your weaknesses are, right? So mission statement, right? If you're, many teams on here I know already have mission statements, right? And some of the teams on here recraft their mission statement on a regular basis to make sure that it aligns with what their team is looking for now. So our mission statement is not slick. It doesn't come down to, it's not like a nice statement. And we've thought about rewriting it, but it explains exactly what our team is focused on. So it's got 3 parts. One part is that we want our team to be sustainable and continue to exist. Another part is that we want to educate and train and develop student skills. And then the third part is that we want to perform STEM-focused outreach for younger students, right? And so when we talk about what our team plans to do or what things we want to do or deciding between option A and option B, we look back to the mission statement and say, you know, does this match up with our goals or our mission, right? So things like, you saw we added FTC teams recently. And so FTC teams are a way for us to do STEM outreach to younger students. They build sustainability of our team by naturally pulling in students who want to join our FRC team. And they build students' skills and develop them by helping the students who are on the FTC teams, but also by having the FRC students mentor the FTC teams, right? So when we looked at that and we're deciding between FTC and some other options, we said, oh, well, this fits all of the parts of our mission statement perfectly, right? So clearly this is a high priority for us of what we're gonna focus on. You know, and similar things happen as you go through the rest of these, right? So one of the things I like is team history and growth here. They want you to focus on the past 2 years, right? So not what happened for us on Team 6 20 years ago, right? When none of the students on our team were alive or had been born yet, right? Those things aren't really having a huge impact on our team now and our team growth. They want you to focus on what has happened in the last 2 years, right? So for everyone lately, COVID is a big thing, right? So that really thinking back on, how have things operated in the last 2 years? How are they operating this year? And what can we do in the future to still grow, or rather than saying growing in spite of COVID, but how do we utilize that to reach more people? So, a good example here is realizing what did COVID do for you? It was really forcing you to go online, and in some cases that can help you reach students who maybe you wouldn't reach normally, because if you're all in person all the time, there's some students who can't make that, can't meet your meeting times. So for us, as we talk about growth and our team history here, and we're going to talk about COVID in our business plan this year, we're going to talk about how we spread out our meetings and changed our meeting structure and what impact that has had. All right, and then they have a few other things in here: organizational structure, risk analysis, marketing, financials, right? Really just the making you think about those things and go through. So I like what they have in the Entrepreneurship Award for their summary business plan. And this isn't a big thing, right? So sometimes students will balk at it. They're like, that's a lot of stuff to write about. And they're not asking you to write huge, 200-page business plan describing every little aspect of your team. They're asking for 3 pages with some added pictures and graphs and tables, right? 3 pages, they write more than that for English class. They can handle this, and it's something that they're interested in. So what I want is this. So here's a quick snapshot at last year's business plan for us. All right, so our sections are straight up titled exactly what the rubric calls for, right? Our mission statement. Is this big enough for everyone? Michelle, does this seem reasonable size?
If you have a full screen, which I do, and I have it a very large monitor, I can read it. But
all right. And then a little bit of team summary. Popping out some team structure, just a little bit of details, right? So like here, we talk about outreach, right? And we got 1 sentence about what that looks like in our team structure. We got a nice graphic, right? This isn't a tricky thing to tackle as far as writing, but it takes a little bit for the students to get it. So the way we like to start is just take the questions it first gives you and have them try to answer them, whether it's written answers, pictures, discussion, right? Like, let's just get something down that covers how we answer each of these questions, right? So and they always have something. It might take a little bit of probing at first, but everyone on your team will know what are your risks, right? What are your what's your structure look like right now? And the interesting things here pop out when someone says the organization looks like this, and someone else says, oh no, it looks like this, right? And then you realize how much unwritten things there are about how your team operates, right? And so as you start to write those down and all put down what you're looking at, you can start to see where the differences are. And that's the value of the business plan by and large, is just getting the things, the unwritten things, the unsaid things, the assumptions that people have down on paper so that you can compare and then consciously decide which way you want it to be. So when we have people start writing the business plan, we say just take some time, write out some answers, whether it's in a meeting or go home, pick one and say, go home and just think about what's our marketing look like right now, right? And come back with some bullet points of how our team markets and some bullet points of how we could, right? And then the big part of this is you take all of that and you iterate over and over and over, right? And so I think some of you were in the design presentation last time, and that was really focused on the first day and the first few hours of when you find out the game. And I'm sure Dean talked about iterating and coming up with ideas and then tweaking them and combining them and changing them. and adding them. And the same goes for the business plan, right? So really you should, tackling this business plan is a lot like tackling and designing a robot, right? It's not just come up with one idea in your head, throw it down and be done. It's, you know, come up with many ideas, consciously pick the ones, determine which ones are best, discuss with the other people who are on your team, combine your ideas with what other people come up with, right? The robot's not designed by one person on your team. The business plan shouldn't be written and designed by one person on your team. It's the same idea. Right, so for us, this took months. We didn't work on it, you know, straight every single time we met for months, but you know, it was a back and forth of write, read, edit, rearrange, change what we're looking at, right? And a lot of back and forth about what's important, because you only get 3 pages, and 3 pages is not a lot to talk about everything about how your team operates, right? The same way that if you gave someone to really describe everything about how your robot operates, you know, code, all of the parts you designed, how you made it, how you decided what you were putting on it, how you troubleshooted, how you made changes, right? And you've actually asked someone to explain that in 5 minutes, right? It's the same deal. You can't fit all that into one little nice sentence and really get all the details. So you got to pick and choose. All right. There we go. All right. So one of the biggest parts, and you'll see on our business plan, a lot of the space is given over to the SWOT analysis. And that was kind of a change for us this past year. We wanted to spend more time focusing on it than we had in the past. And so I know a lot of people know what a SWOT analysis is, but we'll just go through quickly here. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you can see here. So you've got things that are helpful to you to achieving your objectives. So your objective in this case should be your mission statement, right? So things that are helpful are strengths or opportunities. And strengths are things internal to your team. So strengths could be you have some very committed students, right, on your team who are very interested. You have mentors with really useful and great knowledge, or it could be your mentors are really great at sharing that knowledge, right? Things that are specific or internal to your team, the people on the team that help you. Opportunities are those things external, right? So maybe your school is deciding, oh, we're going to expand our tech ed department, right? And we're going to add some more space. And so that's an opportunity for you, right? There's something there that could be helpful. You could get tools that are useful to you, right? You could get more space potentially. So that's an opportunity that you could capitalize on with some action, right? And that would be helpful to you. Threats, on the other hand, are external things that are harmful to you. So for example, a threat could be one of your sponsors is having a bad year, right, financially, and can't support you, right? So it's external to you. You don't really have as much control over it, and it hurts your team in some way, right? The reduced funding. And then weaknesses are things that are internal and harmful to you. So weakness in this case could be, you know, we don't have all the tools we need to produce the robot, or we don't have good communication lines going, and so we spend a lot of time rehashing things or going over things that we've discussed before, or that we've missed telling people. So we do a lot of rework of robot parts because we didn't communicate that we've made changes, or that there's changes in what our priorities are, right? And so the goal with all of these is to, with your SWOT analysis, is to come up with some strengths, some weaknesses, some opportunities, and some threats. You don't need an even number of each. You don't need 1 million, but they're out there. It takes it can take a while for someone who's doing this the first time to come up with a good list of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is an area where you want to engage lots of people across your team, right? Because your strengths are not isolated to one area, right? And things that you see that you're not intimately involved with, you don't necessarily have a good line of sight to it. So many you can see here's some of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats we came up with. Right? And then in the past, we'd come up with this list, write it down, put it in the document, and be done. Right? Which is great. You've identified what things are going well, or what opportunities you have, or what problems there are. Right? But now you haven't said what you're going to do about them, and when you haven't decided what you're going to do about them, that's just people might be working on them independently and not communicating about them, and you might have options that are, or actions that are counter to each other operating at the same time. So you can see here, right? So some of our strengths, and these have changed over the past few years, right? So one of the strengths we had was that the FRC students mentor 4 FTC teams at their junior high, right? And we consider that a strength because the students were interested in doing it. They got a lot of benefit out of it. The FTC students got a lot of benefit out of it, right? And it really helped our FTC program along. Diversity of skills was a good strength we had, right? And in the past, sometimes that wasn't a strength and that was a weakness. And so once you have that list, you really want to take in and go, what are our weaknesses? How do we address them, right? And so one of the things, lack of skills or lack of diversity of skills was a weakness a few years prior. And so one of the things we went through and did was put an emphasis on recruiting from different areas and different groups of students in the school that we didn't normally recruit, right? So put a lot of emphasis on trying to find students who are more interested in the business aspects of the team, or maybe took a lot of business classes at our school and had those skills already so that we could build out the diversity of skills. Same with opportunities and threats, right? You don't have control entirely around those, but by listing them out, you can decide, oh, it's worth putting effort towards capitalizing on this opportunity or taking advantage of it. Or, oh, it's worth putting effort towards mitigating this risk. So yeah, I guess I haven't asked, are there any questions so far? Anyone have anything they'd like to add? All right. So CIS.
It's
Go ahead.
in chat. I was going to say there's a couple comments in chat.
Yeah. Laura, I'll answer your question in a second here. So CIS 4607, I think some of you are on the call. You guys do probably the best job that I've seen, and that is our like role model. You are a role model of how to do a SWOT analysis, because I've seen you actually go through and for each sub team and each part of your organization, everyone does a SWOT analysis for each part, and then you could do a whole team SWOT analysis and combine them and look at each group, what can they do to capitalize on their strengths, shore up their weaknesses, take advantage of opportunities that are out there, and focus on preventing or mitigating any threats, right? And so that's something that we haven't done as a team. We've just done a whole team looking at everything. And I think in the next few years here, that's one of the goals we're going to go for, is each sub team, right? As we have larger sub teams and more involved and people are a little more focused on their sub team, go through and do a SWOT analysis, because even regardless of doing it for the business plan, looking at your whole team, doing it for robot related things, right? And I think part of your SWOT analysis either was how you came up with your focus on the FMEA, or it might have been the other way around. I can't remember how you described it. So it was really interesting. So I don't know if there's anyone on 46 or 7 who wants to talk a little bit about how you do your SWOT analysis.
Because I believe there isn't a restriction to unmuting yourself.
Yeah, they might just be. All right. So I guess, Lori, yeah, we still have trouble getting enough business students, right, who are focused in that. Our school has a good number of business classes, and so we've reached out to the business teachers specifically, and so we don't have any teachers on our team either who are actively involved, but reaching out to the business teachers, and it helps that I'm an alum of the school, right? And so I actually had a few of those teachers, and so we reach out on a annual basis and say, hey, we're looking for students who are interested in this, or interested in these kind of things, and mixed success. Last year we had one student who was very interested and came on board, and we sold it to him as like, hey, there's people in DECA and they make business plans for hypothetical businesses, right? Whereas over here we're making a business plan for essentially a real business with real money that we're going to spend, right? So the hypothetical is great and it gives you a lot of good opportunities and learning, but we have this opportunity to actually do it in person and see the effects and see what's going on and give them that opportunity. And so we had one student who the business teacher thought of who really latched onto that, and he came over and wanted to focus specifically on the business plan, which was good. And part of it too is just we try to be very open to the fact that not everyone needs to make the same amount of commitment to the team, right? And so not everyone needs to come in every time we have a meeting. Not everyone needs to come in for the same hours, and some things like working on the business plan might be able to do remotely or from home. And so he had a very busy schedule, so we worked that, and he worked with mentors via phone on many occasions to work through the business plan, even though he couldn't be there during our normal meeting times. Does that answer your question, Lori? Yeah, so some of the common business plan mistakes that we've had or learned through the years is having too few people work on the business plan, right? So kind of the first year we had 2 people write it, work on it, and they weren't as involved in some of the other aspects of the team, right? And that worked, and we had a business plan and we followed the rubric, and great, and it turned out, but it wasn't as impactful as it could be. So I realized we need to involve more students, and especially involve newer students, right? Because newer students have fresh eyes. They might see things where you go, we've always done it this way, so we just don't consider changing because it kind of works. And they go, this seems like we could do it a different way, right? Or involving new mentors too. Mentors by and large work for businesses and have seen how things can be done a variety of different ways. And so involving multiple people in writing your business plan, especially looking at your SWOT analysis, right? And how you decide things, because your business plan is really you pointing out what is of the utmost priority to your team, and then how are we making sure that we're doing things that drive that, right? And so really your whole team in some manner should be involved in deciding those things, like your mission statement and what things are most important to you and what should be worked on. We've written business plans that end up with 6+ pages of information, or we hit 3 pages and realize we've only talked about team history and one other thing. And you go, okay, we need to cut it down, right? This is, they call it a summary business plan, right? It's really short. And some teams out there will do much larger full business plans that include everything and really involve all of their discussion and decision making put together, and then put together the summary 3-page business plan for the Entrepreneurship Award. Right. Like with any award, if you have inconsistencies, if you're not matching up between different things, it makes it seem like you don't know what you're talking about, or you're lying, right? Or you have incorrect information, right? So making sure that everything jives, right? Makes sense all the way through your business plan is big. And then the big one that we learned is that from talking with other teams as we were starting to work on our first business plan, is that in the judging room, this is when business plans used to be submitted, they would throw out half, roughly, of business plans just because they didn't meet the rubric. So, and then sometimes we get into people are really just trying to sell their team, right? And so they're talking about how great their team is and all the things they do, and it just comes off as like a big list, as a sales pitch. Really, the business plan is about how do you operate as a team, how do you make decisions, those things, and that's much more interesting. It is kind of a sales pitch in the sense that you are trying to give a story, right? So the best sales pitches are stories, right? It kind of talks about what's the need, then how did we overcome that challenge, and how did we meet that need, right? Same with the business plan. You want to kind of have a little bit of story in there, because documents that don't have a story are very boring. So yeah, Lori's has a question here about the rubric. So yeah, I keep saying 3 pages because it's 3 pages max plus 3 pages of appendices, right? So you have 3 pages to write your answers to these 6 questions, and then you get 3 pages of appendices, and to include any supporting documentation as far as charts, pictures, graphics. So what we do on our team is it actually ends up, since we put in pictures and graphics as we go, we kind of push the rule a little bit. And so our text ends up taking a little more than 3 pages, but we just work our graphics in instead of putting them at the end, because it makes it easier to read. Because if you're reading about what people are doing around their SWOT analysis, but the SWOT analysis at the end of the business plan, it doesn't really make sense as much as a flow. So we just work it in and then make sure that we don't have more than 3 pages of text spread across our few pages. So, all right. So then once you've got this summary business plan, right, and it's great, you're going to submit it for the Entrepreneurship Award, and hopefully win. But there's a lot of other uses for it, and there's definitely a lot of other uses for the information you came up with in it, right? So your mission statement should probably be utilized and talked about outside of your business plan, right? All the people on your team should know your mission statement, because that's the guiding principle that all of your team is working towards. So everyone on your team should know your mission statement and know and be able to connect what am I doing today and right now to how does it forward our mission. We also use it with sponsors, both potential sponsors and current sponsors, because it's a good way to give them a snapshot of our team, right, as far as what are the different things we're engaged in. But also it looks really great to sponsors because, especially ones who are giving us money or time or in-kind goods, because we're saying we're actually thinking about how we're utilizing these things and how we're going to ensure that we continue to exist as a team. So you're not just giving money to us and keeping us going for 1 more year. You're really supporting this organization that's going to exist and continue to serve this mission. And the big thing too is that people and companies want to give money in order to do something, right? They don't want to just give money to an individual. They want to give money to your organization because you have a mission that aligns with their mission, right? So like Medtronic gives a lot of money to FRC teams, right, and robotics teams, because they're interested in seeing people interested in STEM, right? Technology, engineering, math, because those people are going to come work for them and support their business and, you know, continue what their mission as a whole is. So they don't just want to give money in order to, you know, give money. They have intentions with their money, and most companies have somewhere they probably say what their mission is. They might have a foundation that specifies, and so if you can show how your mission aligns with theirs, much better chance that they're going to give you some support. So we use our business plan for that, to really convince them that, hey, we're an organization that intends to do something and has done it and has plans in place. We use it for parents, right, to show them what their student's going to be a part of and how impactful this can be for them, for their student, and for their community, larger community, right? And then also just as a way, it's an easy document once you have it to use for the school to tell them what you're up to, right? And that having that business plan really elevates you from just another club at the school, right? That doesn't look any different than a book club, right? Because to a lot of people, they hear robotics club and they just imagine that you play around with robots in the corner and whatever, right? But by showing them this business plan and other things you have going, pictures of the robot, right? That's the things that gets people excited, right? And helps you build those opportunities in the future where things can come your way and that you can capitalize on. Yeah. The other thing I didn't mention is the Entrepreneurship Award. Now you don't submit your business plan. You hold on to it, and then the judges come around to you. Obviously, this year will be different. We're still waiting to hear how that looks and how that's going to work. But you keep your business plan in your pit, and then judges come and talk to you about that. And you don't know which judges are going to talk about or ask you questions about which thing. So one of the things we've done this past year on our team is we have a dedicated pit team at competition. So you can see on the right-hand side here, we have a few different competition teams and people are part of different ones. So our drive team is totally separate from our pit team, right? And that gives them a chance to take a break, focus on something else, right? It gets to be a long day. So our pit team has a number of responsibilities, and one of them is to represent the team. So the pit team practices and talks about and goes over how they're going to talk about the business plan, how they're going to talk about the things in the business plan, how they're going to talk to other awards that we work on. And all the people on that team are going to be prepared to talk to the judges about that. And that's worked really well for us. In the past, when we didn't have as many members on the team, we had a few members who really specialized in being the pit representative, right? And then what we did is that we always made sure we had a pit representative there, and they would be the ones to talk to people who came to our pit, right? So that our pit team, or the people who are actually working on the robot, can stay focused on working on the robot and don't have to be interrupted all the time to talk to different people who come to our pit. So those are two different ways to do it, but those have worked really well for us in the past. So does anyone have any specific questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or put them in chat and we can talk about. Or advice on business plans, what's worked well for your team, what things have not worked well, that kind of thing.
Would you go back to the slide with the rubric, the requirements?
Yeah, and there's another half to this rubric. I'll jump. So the summary business plan portion, that's what goes in your business plan. And then these guidelines, right, are what the judges are going to ask you about. So they straight up tell you what things the judges want to know, right? So, you know, how is your business plan organized? How does your team make decisions and divide their workload? Those are the things that you want to be able to talk to, and that's what we practice with our pit team, so that they're ready to talk to those things. And once they're ready to talk about those and they know the business plan, they're ready to talk about anything the judges ask for. Sorry, did I cut you off, Michelle? Was there another question?
No. Just going back to kind of what is the overall goal and where that information is, making sure everybody has that. But like I said, it's not a mystery. It is laid out what is expected, and best to follow it.
Yeah, and this is, all I do to find this is search FRC awards, and it takes you to a page that has all of the awards, right? And you can find, it's not done. All right, yeah, I already clicked on it. So it takes you to a page with all the requirements, all right? Tells you where you can be awarded. And one thing of note is with the Entrepreneurship Award, you can win it multiple times. So if you go to 2 regionals, you can win it at both regionals, right? And so still be prepared for those questions. The other thing is that unlike Dean's List or I'm trying to think of other awards that you can only submit once for, Witty Flowers, you're eligible at every event you go to. So you want to be prepared to talk about it again. It looks like we got a question in chat. Does our business plan follow certain branding standards for our team? And if so, does that play an important role in the creation of your business plan? Historically, no. We kind of just make it look nice, right? And it's got our logo, but we haven't really settled on a hard color scheme throughout all our documentation. And really, we don't put out that much documentation, so we don't have that. I know that, Green Machine, 1816, or the Robotics 2177, right? They have pretty consistent branding on their documentation, and so they follow that. I don't know of many teams that have it drive too much what goes into the business plan or how it gets structured. I know that there are a lot of teams where if they already have developed documentation, making the business plan involves, okay, we have a mission statement, grab that goes in, right? We have some stock summaries that we use a lot of the history of our team, right? Go pull some of that and size it up to match how much we need in this document, right? But otherwise, we don't have like a hard branding rules. That's something we've talked about in the future. We're really good on the logo, and that's kind of where it ends. Other questions? Comments?
What has been other people on here's experience with their business plans? Have they had success? Are they any area that they're struggling with?
Yeah, and don't think just because now we're putting effort in and we've got a business plan, right? Like everything automatically is going to come together and it's only going to be up from here, right? Things naturally go up and down, right? You can see in terms of the number of people on our team, right? Like we've had a lot of people on the team before and it's disappeared and it's come back. And, that's somewhat just how it is sometimes, right? Like there are things outside of your control, threats to your team's existence, and some of it is just, but the big thing is, are you fulfilling your mission? And kind of our unofficial motto on the team is, well, it's better than last year, right? So the goal is just, did we make some improvement, right? And it doesn't have to be across the board in every category, but overall, are we improving? Even if it's 1% better, that's an improvement.
I was going to say, as we wrap up, I was just going to ask, for those that are in attendance in this room, what would make this experience funner, more interactive, interesting? We have 2 more sessions, one on November 14th and one on December 5th. They're all going to be different presenters and sessions. And so just kind of wondering if you guys have any feedback for this. I mean, obviously we had to be virtual, but it does give us the opportunity to roll this out to people across the country. There were people invited outside of Minnesota to this. Any ideas that you'd like to see for the next sessions in terms of the interactions and the format?
Hi, this is Scott from Team 2052. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you, Scott.
Jason, this was a great presentation. And one of the things that I think is important to highlight with the business plan that you're showing us. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started a couple of different businesses, and I've been part of the Minnesota Cup, which is a business plan competition for startups. And the piece of feedback that we got, which you guys do an exceptional job with on your presentation here, is that your business plan looks like a marketing brochure. It's engaging, it's beautiful, charts and graphs. That was something that we did with our business plan for the business I actually run today. And it was, we had a professor from the U of M ask us, can I use your business plan to teach my students how to build a business plan? And you guys have done an exceptional job of using visual engagement to get people to keep going, where a lot of business plans are just a wall of text. They're just a wall of numbers. You guys have done a great job of using photos and colors and charts. And I think that's a really important thing that I think someone who's never built a business plan before probably isn't thinking about. And your 2-column and 3-column layouts, this is a great example of how to engage someone, especially in this case, a judge, to keep going and keep looking through the plan. And I think you guys did a great job here.
Thanks, Scott. I think we got to give a lot of credit to Karen, who's one of our mentors. She's a graphic designer by occupation, by training. So she works with some students to finalize this kind of layout without being overbearing. And one of the things that we really strive for, that we've been trying for the past few years, is make it so that it reads kind of like a story, right? It gives you want to keep going, you want to find out more, right? So kind of lay out a common interview tactic that people use is when they answer an interview question, they use what's called the STAR method. So there's 4 parts to answer. There's the situation, the task at hand, the action, so what did you actually do, and then the results, right? And so we work on answering questions that way for the judges, and also trying to lay this out, right, in that way. And the biggest thing for us is this is really not meant to be read as a standalone document, right? Like, we don't just give it to someone and say, here, read this, and then when you're done reading it, come talk to us. It's really meant to be an aid to the students talking to the judges, right? So that's where the SWOT analysis, like you pointed out, nice and big and very clear, so that they can talk about what's going on in the SWOT analysis and point out some things. Same with our appendices, right? We want things that are easy to see, especially when someone is just holding this, right? They're not sitting down to read it, that can be used as visuals, right? When questions are asked, then the student can answer verbally and also point out a visual. So it's kind of more like a slideshow presentation, like you said, than it is a Word document or a book.
I want to highlight one thing you said, is that you got help from a graphic designer. That's exactly who did put together the data, took the data from the technical people from my company, and a graphic designer prepared the business plan for us. Our graphics person did that. So I think that's a really good tip for teams too, is to take your creatives, your people who have an eye for style, and get them heavily involved in putting together the business plan.
Yeah. And, even if you can't find a graphic designer, you can't find, this isn't anything too scary. We've got a table I made in Google Sheets, right? Like, this is just boxes dropped together. We've got, some pictures we put in. This was all made in Google Docs, right? There's no fancy software. I think she did a little bit because she's comfortable with it in the end, just to polish it up. But I mean, there's nothing too crazy here besides a little bit of color that's consistent and some boxes and whatnot. But so it doesn't take a whole lot to make it pretty. Thanks, Scott. That was a good call out. To tack on to Michelle's question, are there other topics you'd like to see sessions on in future jumpstarts? Right, I know it sounds like we got a good number of submissions for different topic ideas, but is there specific things that people would like to see presentations on or discussions on or whatnot?
Or suggestions about, like I said, getting the people within the rooms to be more engaged and engaging with each other. We don't, it was mentioned up at the opening remarks that, this is an opportunity to connect with your peers, connect with other teams. It doesn't have to be just a presentation that you listen to. We want you guys to connect, not just with the presenter, but each other. If you have any suggestions on that, we'd, be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, I should add, we had a team reach out to us, and after we won the Entrepreneurship Award at Grand Forks, and they were at Grand Forks with us, and it was actually a team from the next district over, and they reached out and said, we haven't submitted a business plan before. We're going to put one together here in the off season. Would your team be willing to give us some feedback, give us some ideas to help us get started, right? And so I think that went pretty well. They ended up with a very, very good business plan, and I think I'm a little worried that they're going to beat us now. But so if your team is starting on your business plan or is doing it again, feel free to reach out, and we can give advice, exchange ideas, and vice versa. And we'd love to hear if you have suggestions for ours. Lori, are you referring to the innovation challenge that's new this year? Yeah, so I think my best guess on that one is that we're not going to get more details until kickoff, which makes it a little challenging. I can talk to how our team is approaching that a little bit here, in that so far our team has kind of looked at what interest areas we have of the students who want to work on that, on the innovation challenge, and then they're going to find a problem that's within those areas, and then start coming up with solutions around that. The big thing for us is that we want to focus on a solution to that problem, that real world problem, that involves some amount of iteration and prototyping and testing. We either want to produce like a real physical thing and try it and build a new one and iterate, or if the solution is more like a software solution, we want to build some software and try it and get people to experiment with it and do that. So more so, I think that the guidelines they've put out so far talk to that a little bit, but we're very focused on that, that we want to really actually work through our solution and iterate rather than just come up with a solution and present that solution. So yeah, I think a session would be interesting. I just don't know if anyone actually knows enough yet on what that's going to look like. Maybe a post kickoff kind of thing would be interesting about that one. Same with the game design challenge, a post kickoff or a session about game design would be interesting too. Or maybe we can get Scott to talk about his businesses in the past.
We could definitely talk about, entrepreneurship stuff and things like that. I'm curious if anyone on here, Nightcrawler has a very exhaustive and extensive budgeting process. I'm curious to know if teams have what their experience has been with budgeting for their teams. And if, for example, we have a couple of years ago, we established a fiscal policy for the nonprofit. That's, I guess you could call it a booster club, that runs the team to maintain at least a 50% backstop year over year, so that if we were to lose one or two major sponsors, we'd still be able to have enough funds to recover the following year. So I'm curious if anyone has anything that they want to share about how they manage their money financially and how they get the kids involved in budgeting.
That could be a good session too.
Or what software? I mean, what are you guys doing to keep track of your money? We've kind of bounced around quite a bit over the years, and last year I developed a Google Docs, Google Sheets accounting implementation that allows us to not only track a bank account, checking account, but also a credit card account all in one. The challenge is that we were using Quicken before, but really only the team treasurer had any idea what was going on. It didn't do a very good job of facilitating kind of fiscal oversight so that other mentors and captains could see what's going on. You always have that risk of embezzlement and stuff like that, which is a small risk within the first community, but still you want to have good fiscal responsibility. So anyway, I'm curious to know what other teams are doing too to track their money, how they're managing sort of that year-to-year fiscal responsibility, how they have oversight. Maybe most teams, it's all managed by the school. We get very little financial support from our school, so we manage 90% of our funds ourselves.
Yeah, we don't get any money from the school budget, but we don't have a 501c3 or anything, so all of our donations are donations to the school, and the school handles our money and makes our purchases. So that, again, it's hard to have oversight when it's through three people in order to get there.
That's a good point.
So that makes it interesting too.
Our school provides a coaching salary for one student advisor.
That's true. We have that.
And then they pay for the bus to the mini off-season event and part of the bus to Duluth. No, they pay for the bus to Duluth and part of the bus to Champs if we go. But that's it. With uniforms and tools and robot parts and registration fees are all covered by the team.
Yeah.
So some transportation and one coach.
Yeah, Lori, I think that'd be a good session too with the timelines, and what are the timelines like for making stuff in FRC? I've seen, I did a session last year when No Bag started to talk about what do people intend to do with their timelines and how that works. So maybe we'll have to revive something similar. We'll see. If not, Lori, I'd say if you don't see a session on that, feel free to just reach out to teams, right? Most teams, if you go on Blue Alliance, you can get to their team website very easily and they have contact information. Right, if you go to the Blue Alliance website, search by team number or name, you can find teams, and people have their website nice and accessible, or other ways to contact them. So, jump there and here's our website. We have a nice contact us. Fill it out and just start conversations with teams you have nearby about what is your timeline like? How does that work for you? So. All right. I think that's what I've got. Thanks, Michelle.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We hope you guys enjoyed